Bill Clinton is one of the most media-trained communicators in modern American history. 40 years of press conferences, congressional testimony, hostile interviews, and public scrutiny. If anyone has built a muscle to manage a deposition without leaking, it's him. So when I watched this deposition and identified two distinct behavioral sequences in the first few minutes of my analysis, I knew this was worth breaking down in full. Not because of what he said, because of what his body did between the words. There are 4 behavioral events in this deposition that I want to walk you through. They tell a complete story. And the last one, the final sentence he speaks, is what undermines everything that came before it. If you're new here, my name is Eduardo Perez. For the past 15 years, I have studied what happens to the human body when pressure builds. That work was refined in classifier environments as a counterintelligence special agent, where reading behavioral signals under adversarial conditions was not a skill, it was a professional requirement. And that is the same perspective I bring to every breakdown on this channel.
Deposition of former President William Jefferson Clinton conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform under the authority granted to it pursuant to House Rule 10. Accordingly, House Rule 10 grants the committee broad jurisdiction for the committee to conduct investigations of any matter at any time. On July 23rd.
So that's his baseline. Hands are visible, they're clasped, and they're on the table surface. Posture is upright and forward, and this is a man who is comfortable in his position. Lock that picture in, because everything I'm about to show you is measured against this exact image. Notice specifically where his hands are. They're on the table, they're visible. They're clasped. And that is important because hands on the table signal openness. Consciously or not, visible hands are a baseline trust signal in any adversarial environment. See, the moment that changes, something has changed.
Okay. With respect to the other 16 times that Mr. Epstein came and went, and that spanned 1993 to 1995, am I right that you have no specific recollection of meeting Mr. Epstein any of those times?
No, I don't think I did, and I don't know who he saw.
It's been publicly reported that in March of 1995, there was a fundraiser in Palm Beach that you attended and that Mr. Epstein also attended. Other guests reportedly included Jimmy Buffett and investor Ron Perlman, who may have hosted the event at his home. Do you have any specific recollection of that event?
I remember going there in 1995. I have now seen the picture with Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Buffett. I recognize Jimmy Buffett. He was a longtime friend of mine. He performed for me twice in my second term as president.
I want to go back through that sequence and piece it because there are 4 distinct behavioral events happening, and if you watch it at full speed, you will catch one of them at most. The first one happens the moment he hears the number 16.
With respect to the other 16 times that Mr. Epstein came and went, and that spanned 1993.
There it is. The question mentions 16 times.
With
Watch the
respect
hands.
to the other 16
they pull
times
back
that
from
Mr.
the table
Epstein came
surface
went,
and drop
and that
below
spanned
it.
1993.
They're gone. And in the same motion, we can see his upper body is contracted forward. The shoulders are in, the chest drops, the overall frame is reduced. 2 signals in under 2 seconds, and both of them are threat responses. You see, the hand withdrawal is a concealment behavior. The body is instinctively trying to remove visible signals from the room's view when a threat is detected. And it's the same behavioral equivalent of pulling the curtain. See, the postural collapse is a submission display. The body is physically making itself smaller in response to a perceived social threat. Now watch what happens next.
It's been publicly reported that in March of 1995, there was a fundraiser in Palm Beach.
He caught it. You can see the exact moment his conscious mind registered what his body has just done, and he corrected. The posture returns and the frame expands back to something closer to baseline. Here's why that correction is actually more diagnostic than the collapse itself. The collapse is going to tell you that the questions trigger a threat response. But the correction, that tells you that he is aware of his own signaling, which means that he is now managing the room's read in addition to answering the question. He is doing 2 things simultaneously, and that cognitive load is about to show up in the next sequence.
It's been publicly reported that in March of 1995, there was a fundraiser in Palm Beach that you attended and that Mr. Epstein also attended. Other guests reportedly included Jimmy Buffett and investor Ron Perlman, who may have hosted the event at his home. Do you have any specific recollection of that event?
I remember going there in 1995. I have now seen the picture with Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Buffett. I recognize Jimmy Buffett. He was a longtime friend of mine. He performed for me twice in my second term as president.
Watch what happens when the questions shift to the Palm Beach fundraiser. Specifically, watch what happens the moment Jimmy Buffett's name enters the conversation.
I remember going there in 1995. I have now seen the picture with Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Buffett. I recognize Jimmy Buffett. He was a longtime friend of mine. He performed for me twice in my second term as president.
That is a textbook deflection sequence. The moment Jimmy Buffett enters the answer, he becomes animated. The pace increases, a smile appears, his body language opens, his hands come back up, and the gestures become more expressive. He is comfortable. He is in safe territory. But now watch the transition. The moment his answer has to move from Jimmy Buffett to Epstein, watch his arms.
In my
He
second term
crosses
as
them.
president.
Before he says the name, before the next sentence begins, the arms crossed in preparation for what he's about to say, not in response to what was just asked. And you see that distinction is critical for any attorney working a witness. A defensive gesture that appears after a question can be a response to the question. But a defensive gesture that appears before the answer begins, that's the body preparing for the discomfort of what it's about to produce. The preparation is a tell, not the answer. So that's the first sequence. We see 4 behavioral events. We see a threat detection, concealment, we see a self-correction, and deflection and preparation. But now I want to show you the second sequence because this one ends with a sentence that is one of the clearest examples of hedging language I've seen in a publicly available deposition.
As far as you can remember, at this point in the middle of 1995, how would you have characterized your relationship with Mr. Epstein?
It would be virtually non-existent.
Do you recall any other interactions that occurred between yourself and Mr. Epstein during your time in office that have not already been mentioned today?
No. I think I've told you everything I know.
Let me walk you through what just happened in that sequence. You see 3 separate behavioral events. And the last one, the final sentence, is the one I want every trial attorney watching this to burn into their memory. We start by seeing, due to the specificity of the question, that he is comfortable answering absolutes. He says, virtually non-existent. But the real tell shows up immediately after that question.
Do you recall any other interactions that occurred between yourself and Mr. Epstein during your time in office that have not already been mentioned today?
No.
First, I want to note that question because that is what is called a catch-all question. Do you recall any other interactions that have occurred between yourself and Epstein during your time in office that we have not already discussed today? See, I have used catch-all questions many times during interviews and interrogations. Its function is not to gather new information. Its function is to create a moment of visible discomfort around anything the subject has been protecting throughout the entire interaction. And watch what it produces here. We see first a brief pause before the no.
Today.
In isolation, a pause
No.
before a simple yes or no answer is not a diagnostic, but look at where he sits in the sequence. He is well underway in his deposition.
I think I've told
His
you
cognitive
everything I
load
know.
is elevated. He is managing his own signaling. And now a catch-all question arrives designed specifically to surface anything he has been protecting. See, the pause is the processing window, then the no, then immediately the arms cross. The no is a verbal denial. The arm cross is a physical one. When verbal and behavioral signals align like that, the same message delivered in 2 channels simultaneously, that is not random. The body is reinforcing what the mouth just said, which in behavioral analysis is actually a notable signal in itself. Because when people are genuinely confident in a simple factual denial, the body does not typically need to reinforce it.
No. I think I've told you everything I know.
And then this, the final sentence of that sequence. I think I've told you everything I know. I want every trial attorney watching this to sit with that sentence for a moment, because that is not a confident declarative statement. That is hedging language, and it is hedging on a claim of completeness. If you're certain that you have told everything you know, you don't think it, you know it. The word think on a claim of completeness is clinical hedging language. It is the verbal equivalent of leaving the door open. You see, the conscious mind has constructed a closing statement that sounds final. The language inside that closing statement reveals that the nervous system itself never fully committed to the completeness of what was being disclosed. And then the body confirms it in a way. When he delivers his final sentence, he shrugs his shoulders. This is a simultaneous nonverbal cue that compounds the hedge in the words. That shoulder shrug is not casual. In this context, it signals uncertainty, insecurity, and a lack of commitment to the statement being made. We see two channels producing the same message at the same time. The voice says, I think. The shoulders say, I'm not sure. When verbal and behavioral signals align like that, delivering identical uncertainty across two channels simultaneously, that is not ambiguity. That is the nervous system telling the truth that the words we're trying to manage. Now go ahead and consider the full sequence. Hands disappear at the mention of a number. The posture collapses and self-corrects. We see deflection into safe territory before preparing for the uncomfortable name. We see pauses before a simple denial. And we see how he crosses his arms immediately after the denial. And finally, he closes with the hedging language on a claim of completeness. That is not one signal. That is a behavioral narrative, a nervous system moving through threat detection, attentive management, strategic deflection, and finally a closing statement that, despite its assertive framing, contains the one word that tells you the subject was never fully committed to the completeness of what they were disclosing.
He came and went, and then 5. There was a fundraiser in
My second term as president. I think I've told you everything I know.
Now watch that sequence again, knowing what you now know. You're not watching a deposition. You are watching a nervous system under adversarial pressure that is producing a complete behavioral story, from the first threat detection to the final hedge. The words said one thing, the body said something else, and the body said it first. If you are a trial attorney, this is the read that happens in your courtroom whether you are trained to see it or not. The witness across from you is producing this sequence. The question is whether you have the framework to catch it in real time and know exactly what to do with it when you do. And that framework is what I call the read. And if you want to know what your own behavioral sequence looks like under pressure, that's what the signal audit diagnosis. Link is in the description. If you want more breakdowns like this one, subscribe. This is the only thing I do on this channel. I find the moment, I show you what was missed, and I explain what the room saw.